am Martha Scheeler, and I'm here to talk to Laura Hobbs. Hi, Laura.
Hello, everyone.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Thanks for being here.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
you. Got a lot going on right now. Just to start, you had asked me who I am, so I thought I'd maybe just say I am a resident of this area, and I have a team of patriots that have asked for public records from every register of voters in the entire state. We have thousands of documents in a public library that we have created for research purposes, and we have literally been asking for and denied, and then asking again, and then denied, and then providing legal reasons why they can't be denied for over 2 years now. And my team's name, we go by the name Team Hope. The library is teamhopelibrary.org. And so I met Laura when she started using our cast vote records that we got. And so Laura's up there talking, and my whole team's going, look at her, how brave she is. And and then we ended up meeting, and you decided to run for supervisor. So tell us about you.
Okay, well, I'm running for supervisor in District 2 here in Shasta County. 100% MAGA, America First. Passionate about election integrity, fairness in elections, and hand counting. I also feel strongly about local issues here in Shasta. My children are growing up here, and I feel like we all as citizens need to do whatever we can to make this county better again, make Shasta great again. And I think it's up to all of us individuals, and that's how I got involved. I think everyone else should do the same in whatever capacity they can to get involved locally so that we can change our country.
So you got an endorsement.
Yes, I was endorsed by the Shasta County Republican Assembly, the
Nice.
SCRA.
That's awesome. You're a parent.
Yes.
I just heard you say that you went to the Registrar of Voters you wanted to say that you are?
Well, it has to be something that you've been doing in the last year. So I said, well, in the last year, I've been primarily working on election data analysis. So I'm an election data analyst, and that's that's what I've been physically doing in the last year. You know, initially I said, well, what about microbiologists? Because I have my PhD in microbiology. That's where I'm credentialed. You know, when you get a PhD, it never expires. Just like if you're a realtor and you don't sell a house for a year, you're still a realtor. So, but they said, no, you can't use microbiologist. Even though I sent them the actual document of my PhD certificate and whatnot, they said, no, that won't work. They said I can't be an election analyst, even though I sent them all the data that I analyzed, my report to the sheriff, the evidence of my work and my occupation in the last year. That wasn't sufficient either. So
Based on what? How did they make that decision? How do they get to choose what you say you are?
well, there are certain laws that govern the ballot designation. And so they cited a bunch of laws, which is interesting because in looking through the laws they cited, most of which did not even relate to ballot designation, I found a couple gems of other California election law, which is going to help our case as far as furthering hand counting and whatnot. But the third ballot designation on there was parent, and that's the one they chose for me, which is fine. I'm proud to be a parent. My children are my pride and joy, and I'm most proud of my work as a parent out of all the things I've done.
Here's the thing. Before the 2020 COVID lockdowns, being a parent was one thing. After the lockdowns, it's the parents that rose up and said, "You're not locking my kids down. You're not going to keep them from their education." So actually, you have a greater impact as a parent because it's mama bear stuff, right? But it's not just that. The parents actually are the ones that rose up when all the rest of us were afraid to say anything. So they may have actually done something that will backfire in the sense that as a parent, I believe you're very qualified. There's a lot of people that have resumes that used to be quite respected.
Well, I think the tide is shifting because it used to be that we looked for politicians that had a large trophy room. Nowadays, we need to have politicians that are just ordinary people ready to roll up their sleeves and do the hard work. And as a parent, I absolutely am qualified. And I would say for all those folks listening out there, so are you.
Well, and I look at you and I say you're extraordinary. You're not ordinary. There's nothing ordinary about you. However, you look, and you are just like the rest of us. But you are, the thing that sets you apart is that you were willing to stand up and say something I think a lot of people don't do anything because they don't know what to do. That's what I found from the very beginning when we were starting our election work. We were working with other groups throughout the state, and we were finding that there were so many Californians that have been told their whole life, they're like curled up in a ball because they've been told their whole life their vote doesn't matter, they're never going to get anywhere. What do they do? Because we need to feel powerful. People need to feel powerful. And you don't feel powerful when you always feel like you're going to lose. And so what you do is you divert your energies to things you can consider yourself winning at. But that is not the season we're in. We're in the season where the average person has to step outside of their comfort zone, and they have to be willing to do the things that they don't know are going to be successful. We didn't know, our team didn't know it was going to be something that people were going to use and it was going to be nationally known. They don't know about our team, but they know about our work. That's for sure. But none of us knew, but we were willing to make mistakes. Somebody once said, when Jesus comes, I want to be doing something, even if it's making mistakes.
Exactly.
And I think we should not give in to the education we've received that we have to be successful at everything and that making a mistake is a problem. Making mistakes is not a problem. It's how you learn.
I do think that personal accountability is important quality for any politician to have.
We all have this great opportunity every day. His mercies are new every morning, right?
Exactly.
So every day we have an opportunity to step back. Instead of continuing down a road that is going nowhere, we all have an opportunity to say, we can't go this way anymore because this way is harming too many people. And the truth is, out of 100 people, 99 of them are not going to be brave enough to do anything. But if you have any inkling that you need to be brave and do something, you better step up because those 99 people, they need your help. They just don't know it.
I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about when you send out public records requests to the different ROV offices and places where you're looking for documents that belong in the public realm. They belong to we the people. Could you tell us about what happens when you do receive rejection notices and they cite certain laws that may or may not be applicable?
Well, first of all, the California Public Records Act defines public records as belonging to the people. So much so, the California Code literally says that those officials are to not only help the requester. In the code, it says that if the requester needs help in formulating their request, they're required by the code to help the requester to find the right record to ask for. What we found over and over is they said, we have no records responsive to your request. They knew what we were asking for. They're the elections office. It's their expertise. They knew exactly what we were looking for. But because we didn't ask for the thing exactly, it was their out, right?
Which out of all the 58 counties in California, which ones were the holdouts, the ones that really wouldn't release you any documents?
Well, at first we did just 7 counties. Kern County and Shasta County were neck and neck. They were the worst.
Wow.
Shasta County has become more transparent, I would say. They're giving us more records. But the other counties that are absolutely what I would call obstructive, although that might not be the right legal term because obstruction of justice is a different thing than being obstructive of releasing public documents to the owners of them, which is we the people. When our team was formed, we were asking for public records, we were receiving public records, and we realized very quickly that we did not own these, that the people owned them. And that is why we worked really hard with some different partners to get our records in a safe place, but also to release copies of those records redacted and sanitized so that anybody can read all the emails for themselves, because those belong to the people, not to us.
For those of you who haven't visited her website, I really recommend that you do. It's an amazing resource. I think especially for folks that are maybe even beyond Shasta County, leading local citizens groups, this is a resource you need for your community group as well.
And I would say Trinity County is represented by the same law firm in Redding as Alpine County, Tehama County, and several other small counties. Those counties, these tiny little counties, have absolutely straight-armed us on our public records request.
Wow.
And we weren't getting anything from them. Trinity County, our teammate, went to the Board of Supervisors in Trinity County for those audit logs. Remember, Amy Young in Nevada County won her case, got $85,000 in attorney's fees because the county refused to give her audit logs that she was in her right to ask for. The opinion is in our public library. So we sent that case and advised the Board of Supervisors that their county counsel, which is a private firm in Reading, was not serving them well because they could end up having to pay $85,000 in attorney's fees.
Exactly.
Guess what we got?
What is the name of the firm, may I ask, that represents?
You can find it in our library.
And that shows that it's a state orchestrated, because didn't you see the same verbiage in all the different counties as well, or no?
In a different, unrelated way. Statewide, we asked for the Secretary of State's communication with the Registrar of Voters. We have received, maybe by accident, some correspondence from the Secretary of State's legal counsel. And it shows that they were telling the Registrar of Voters that they did not have to give us things that they do. And it's said in a way, but if you are not careful how you read it, the problem with legalese is you can put an is or and it changes the meaning of the entire sentence. They used a case that was about 1% manual tally. I believe it was either that or the risk limiting audit, but they used a lawsuit about that. They were talking about ballot images and cast vote records and audit logs for the general election. In 2018, they went from doing a hand count to verify the election, 1% manual tally. They changed it to a risk limiting audit, which is counted by a machine. I don't know why they would have done that. Do you have any idea why in 2018 they wanted to go from hand counting to using machines?
Well, I do know it's because it's easier to manipulate the outcome of the election in their favor.
Right, and you can't audit it if you use the machine to audit the machine.
Exactly. So it sounds like it's twofold. It's information being sent out from the Secretary of State to the ROV offices, but it's also the county council of that specific county, which seems to be involved in the denial of these public records requests.
Exactly. So county council in many counties were responding to our request for cast vote records instead of the Registrar of Voters. In all of the experience we had, we were finding out that the Registrar of Voters didn't really understand how to run the report. We had to send them the pages from their manual to describe to them how to run their reports. Not all of them, but most of them. So they hand it off to the third party, which is the county council, who's trying to tell us why they can't give them to us. And the county council knows even less about voting machines and voting systems and voting regulations. Understand, most county council deal with county litigation over employee matters. They give advice to the Board of Supervisors based on not election stuff. So this wasn't really a fair fight for them, and yet they fought hard, and they told us this is how it works, and this is the law. Well, they're using a law. There's a case called Citizens versus VU. Okay, in that case, the citizens wanted to open all the ballots, not as an audit, but unseal the ballots and make copies of them, make scans of them, and then reseal them. And the judge said, no, you can't do that. But what we were asking for required nothing to be unsealed. It required no images to be re-scanned. They're already scanned into the machines. And so we were asking for the images of the ballots from the 2020 election. We asked for that. We gave them case law. We showed them why they have to release these ballot images and the cast vote records and the audit logs. And we were only able to get cast vote records.
As the Board of Supervisors, looking at this from the perspective that they are in charge of all the different departments of the county, and when you have an ROV office that is denying these requests in a way that's not really justified, they're actually leaving the county liable for lawsuits, like in the case of Nevada County, where they ended up having to pay $85,000 in lawyers' fees because they unlawfully denied a request for audit log.
One brave patriot, all by herself. She said, when I was doing this, I thought nobody else was doing anything. One brave patriot chose to say, you can't deny me these records, these audit logs. And so we took on that. We decided to ask for audit logs from every county that used the same. Nevada County used Heart Verity, which now Shasta County uses.
The audit logs and the cast vote record.
Most of these counties we got the cast vote records from, but we wanted those audit logs because the audit log is
tabulator, right?
Right. So this audit log shows every action that happens within that program. Those audit logs have been very helpful. There's anomalies in the ones that we've received.
Well, that kind of brings me to another topic I wanted to just touch on, because the ROV is leaving this county liable to lawsuits not just by denying these public records requests, but also by not cleaning the voter rolls. The Election Integrity Project of California court case started in 2017, but they recently ordered LA County to remove 1.2 million voters from their voter roll that did not belong there.
Well, they did that. They can do that. And they have done that. Do you know that they've removed voters right after the election that they added right before the election? So they're perfectly capable of removing those voters, but they're also capable of putting them back. California legislature has passed so many rules that make it almost impossible in California to maintain your voter rolls. It's so cumbersome because you would have to have personnel that's going to check on these voter registrations. There is a problem. The reality is the voter rolls are dirty and we need to start over. You said that yourself.
Yep, that's why we need to go to paper poll books for Shasta County. Just let everyone re-register with their ID, proving that they are a citizen of the United States, and let it be something that is done at the precinct level. We don't need a centralized system. That's where all the cheating comes in, is the Secretary of State can add whoever they want to our voter rolls.
Right, and that's what they're doing through the motor voter. Back in the day, Alex Padilla was in the Senate, and the only bill on elections that he sponsored was to get all the people that applied for Covered California. This was when Obamacare came in. Anybody that applied for Covered California was automatically registered to vote. So those voter rolls, because of just those two things, they should be absolutely start over.
I agree, 100%. That is how they manipulate our elections. They have access to the voter rolls, the NGOs and the people who might want to do harm and manipulate the outcome. They know they can have nearly real-time data based on who's voted and who's not, and they can use that to know how many votes they need to cheat and then to execute the cheat using the computer system, in our case, Heart Verity.
You know, back in the day, I used to be involved in some motorsports, and they used to say, then, everybody cheats in racing. I don't think we're teaching our children when they play soccer to cheat. I don't think we're teaching our children when they take tests at school that they should cheat. So I think there's some level of integrity that most people have. They understand right from wrong. People who say, they cheat in elections. We're not talking about a racetrack with a bunch of race cars bumping into each other. We're talking about our freedom. And I think cheating should be something we don't tolerate. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. It's no fun to win by cheating. I mean, they should have that feeling that if they didn't win it honestly, it's not worth winning.
Right. How does that make our constitutional republic valid?
Well, the only way that we can be valid is if we are governed by the will of the people.
Not the will of somebody in Sacramento that's directing all the registrars of voters to deny me records.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it has to be for and by the people.
Yeah. As a team, we would be talking about how ridiculous the arguments were made to deny these records. We're like, why do they have to hide if they're trying so hard to keep us from seeing it? When we first started, we thought these people just are defensive because they think they're doing their job and they think they shouldn't be questioned because they have such integrity. And basically walking in the county clerk's office, that's the impression I got. These are great, hardworking people that make sure that all the forms I fill out are filled out right. They follow the rules. They're good people. So I just assumed that translated up to the top of the department. But then when we realized these people they're not being defensive. They're literally hiding something, because you don't act like this if you're not hiding something. Why would there be a statewide effort to keep the evidence of an election that they swear was conducted fairly and properly? It just made us more curious.
Exactly. If you have nothing to hide, you hide nothing. But hey, I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about how sometimes the Board of Supervisors are led astray by the county council. They're given information that may or may not be correct, and they are intimidated. And sometimes they don't use the full authority they have to represent their constituents because they're told by county council that, that's not possible. We can't do that.
Is the county council an elected official?
No. They're appointed.
Who approves their budget?
The Board of Supervisors approve.
Right. The Board of Supervisors have the purse strings for the county council. And when they're given bad advice, there should be consequences for that. But same thing, they have the purse strings for the registrar of voters. The county council does give bad advice. We have it in many counties. We've literally said, you are giving bad advice. We've said it to the election officials. You're getting bad advice from county council. Sometimes they got it. Sometimes they didn't. County
council leaves the county of Shasta liable if they give bad advice,
Well,
Am
they
I
seem
correct?
to be able to keep their jobs and retire with a nice pension. So I'm not really sure that giving bad advice has a consequence unless the board gives them a consequence. Normally, the people that respond to our public records requests aren't the top of the letterhead, but they're usually somewhere in the middle. We saw some leave. I don't know about this one.
We've
but
had a lot of changeover in Shasta County. The current board majority have been working really hard to fix this problem and try to get people in there that are going to be responsible, honest, and do the will of the people and represent the law fairly and equally.
Do you just hire somebody new and just expect that you don't need to check their work?
I think you do need to vet these lawyers better because the fact that we've had so much turnover indicates that the vetting process isn't really working properly. But speaking of being given a hard time by county council, I was at the Citizens Election Commission on Monday this week. Now that I'm running for supervisor, when I go up to the podium, I say, "This is Laura Hobbs, candidate for Supervisor District 2. My topics are just very direct and related to elections. In this case, it was an elections commission meeting, so it was related to the elections. And I did that once. The county council didn't say anything. This was a substitute council that day. And then I went and sat down. And after I took a seat, the county council said, "Excuse me, you're not allowed to do that. You cannot announce that you are running for office at the podium." And she was telling the board, not the board of supervisors, so the commissioner board, that I was not allowed to announce that I was a candidate. So I was sitting there thinking, okay, well, all
Who
right.
made that rule?
She just mentioned it. So when I went back up to the podium again, I said, "Hi, this is Laura Hobb, candidate for Supervisor District 2. And then I went in to go deliver my comment, and she stopped me again, and she said, "You're not allowed to say that at the podium." And I said, "Well, by what law?"
Right.
Because she's the lawyer, so she should know the law if she's going to assert this. She said, "Well, I don't have it. I can look it up and I can give it to you, after the meeting." And I said, "Until then, I'm going to, I have the freedom of speech, so I'm just a citizen up here at the podium. I can say whatever I want." Okay. So I went ahead and delivered my comment. It wasn't a campaign speech. It was a comment about elections.
Right.
Anyway, so I got home and I looked at this. She had written out the code, California Government Code 8314, looked it up, and it specifically is talking about any local or state appointee, employee, consultant, basically a public official. It's illegal for any public official to campaign, but I'm not a public official.
You're
I'm a
private
citizen. We have county council is intimidating citizens. They're also intimidating the board members themselves. I want to let people know that if I am elected supervisor, I will not be intimidated by these people. I will look up the law myself if I have to and research it myself. But as a citizen just coming to the podium,
you're defining yourself. We do need county council. We need law enforcement. We need people that read the laws and understand how they work, to see the people that are paid with our tax dollars to defend and protect our freedom because they've taken an oath, to misapply law
and to use it against we the people,
and to use it to suppress the First Amendment. The very First Amendment was the First Amendment because it was really important. Anybody who is going to assert a law against that First Amendment would be wise to give some give some extra weight to the First Amendment. I believe that's in a few opinions of the Supreme Court that you give extra weight to that right against laws that suppress that.
Yep. And there's, I want to mention U.S. Code 18, Section 242, which says it's illegal for anyone to use the color of law to suppress your constitutional rights.
Yeah.
And especially as a representative of the county, so she should be aware of that law as well.
I do think that our Board of Supervisors has done a great job of making sure that they stand up for the rights. Most of them have. But at the same time, it would be good to have more oversight. And I think the problem we have with the elections offices in every county in the state is that they're not respecting that they have oversight from the Board of Supervisors. They're not answering to the Board of Supervisors, which is in the law. It's written into law that they do answer to the Board of Supervisors. I got a call from one of my kids, and one of my grandkids didn't do their homework. They didn't do their homework because the teacher said they weren't going to grade it. So the kid thought, well, why do it? My mom was a teacher. I watched her sit up at night grading papers into the dark of night with her glasses on at the kitchen table. So this teacher doesn't want to grade papers, but she gives busy work. And I said to my son, I said, maybe you should grade those papers. and she should get a grade for her work because she needs the grade. Obviously, the reason she didn't do it is because she didn't get the grade. If there's no oversight, my co-lead says people don't perform to what you expect; they perform to what you inspect. The Board of Supervisors need to stand in their authority and have more oversight.
So I feel like a full forensic audit would do that. Many people have campaigned on it, and it has not yet happened.
Interesting.
I know this is something that Wynn Carpenter cares deeply about as well. So if we can get a good board majority and keep the majority that's already in place by voting no on the recall of Kevin Cry, we could actually do some of these things and get it done for our county. I have no hesitation with bold action. Though we've had the majority for the last year, it hasn't been utilized to the full extent it could have been.
Because of advice from council?
Partly that, yes. They've done a good job of kind of getting rid of some of the internal corruption that keeps everything from functioning well.
Last week, there was a vote on impact fees.
Yes.
What happened?
Well, they voted to suspend impact fees on any new growth or new construction in our county, which is, I think, going to be a boom for this county. Basically, people have been unable to build on their land because the impact fees are so high. They're between $20,000 and $30,000 for a home, depending on the square footage of the home.
Is that commercial as well?
And commercial, yeah.
Right, so it can draw some construction up here because it cuts so much off of those commercial projects that we may see some growth in commercial and maybe jobs.
Yes, exactly. And the big developers, this was never a hindrance for them. They would pay whatever the cost to develop whatever they needed to. It's going to help the little guy.
Right.
It's going to help the average citizen that wants to build their dream home.
All those Gen Zers that are being told you will own nothing and yet be happy.
Yeah.
Those Gen Zers are going to be able to build a house.
So it's a huge improvement. We can still do more work in this area. This is just for the new growth.
You've got signs going up everywhere.
I have signs, not as many as some other people, but I'm getting them out there little by little, and I'm going to go do that right now, actually.
Okay. Well, God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you. God bless our listeners.
Thank you for being here, and thank you guys for listening to us. We're having a lot of fun. The whole point of this podcast is to give Laura a voice. Laura Hobbs, election data analyzer, biologist, and parent, who is running for Supervisor District 2. Have a good week.
Thank you. Same to you.